besties. It is the 2nd of April. God knows when you'll be seeing this, but right now it is the 2nd of April, which means I will be doing my March wrap-up of reading, because I did one for January and February, because I read like nothing in between those months, and this month I read 6 books. No, technically 7, but 2 of them are like literally the shortest stories I've ever read, so I'm gonna say we'll round it up to 6, which is better than the overall 5 I think I read between January and February. Slow ass months, but I know that again the setup for this is ugly and not good. My bookshelf is like in the most awkward position. There's so much shit on the floor that you don't need to see. My bookshelf is in the worst position ever, so it's just really hard to film next to it, but I'll try to create a nice setup, because that's one of the nicest things about watching book videos, is like it looks in general nice. So I understand that is missing from the equation. We're just gonna jump right in. I think this was a really good reading month for me, in the way that the books that I read, like most of them, I absolutely adored. So we're gonna jump right in. And the first thing I read was The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. Oh, I started reading this at the end of February, and coincidentally at that time I got diagnosed with something completely out of nowhere, very unexpected, and it's nothing serious, but like it's just been hard to deal with. And so the fact that I started reading this at that exact time was like fate. Like there is no time better to find a book like this, and no book better to find at a time like that. So this book is a children's fantasy about Bastian, who loves books and stories are his way to escape from the world, and he finds a book called The Never-Ending Story in a bookseller's shop, and he steals it and runs away to the attic of his school to read it. It's about the connection, the strong connection that he forms with the book, and we get to go inside the book and live in the world of Fantastica, which is the fantasy world. It is just a limitless, like, forever growing world of like everything your imagination could ever think of, and every creature that you could ever think of. And oh my god, like I fell in love with this world, and the pure, like, just imagination, like it just, I love children's literature so much, and this book felt like the epitome of like what I love about children's literature. It was, you know, there was a quest where we meet a bunch of different characters along the way, all very lovable and interesting and weird. It was just, it felt like enchanting. Like, I love to use that word to describe these types of books, because it really is like, it's like so like charming and like inviting. And I just had such a fun time like falling in love with it. There are a bunch of illustrations at the start of every chapter, kind of like depicting the different worlds that you end up in. This reminds me of the Grand Budapest Hotel. Don't know why. Anyone else? It's just literally everything you could ever think of is in here. Like, it is just like an ever-growing, like, limitless world. Cottages. There's just like everything. Like, it was so... There's like tree people. There's literally every like magical creature ever is in here, and it was such a like celebration of stories, and like celebration of what books can do for you and where they can bring you. And the fact that I was using this book to bring me those places and let me escape from the world within a story about using stories to escape from the world, it was just like, it was very special. And it's a book that I will hold close to my heart for a long time, I think. And I'm very, very grateful to have read it. Like, that is the biggest compliment I feel like I can give, is like, I feel lucky to have read this book when I read it, and I think about the characters in the world like all the time. Like, I'm constantly like, I miss it. Like, what are they up to now? Like, there was just so many like charming, endearing characters and places, like lands that just I could never have dreamed of like creating this land. And it made me want to write stories like this. Like, it made me be like, wow, there's just something about like reaching as far as your imagination can take you that is just so fun. fun. And I think a big part of the reason why I love children's literature is there is a certain like kind approach to the world, if that makes sense. Like something in this book reminded me of Studio Ghibli films, and something that I love in Studio Ghibli films, which is like when you meet a stranger in a Studio Ghibli film, there isn't any really distrust. Like you can count on strangers to be kind and well-meaning, and I felt the same thing in this book. And I find that so refreshing in children's literature, because it is that trusting nature that you kind of grow out of as an adult, that, you know, you don't really have that in the world, where you can just trust people you meet to be well-meaning and to help you out and not be manipulative or deceiving. And that I felt that, even though there is obviously like there's some villains in here or whatever, same with like Studio Ghibli films, but on the whole it's like you can just trust people to be kind. And like I just love reading that and watching that in films. I don't know if anyone else gets that, but yeah, I really enjoyed that in this. And also this copy, I got it obviously secondhand. Like I buy like basically all of my books secondhand, and at first I was like, oh, I hate this cover, like I wish I got the cover I actually like thought I was getting. But now I've like grown to love it. Like it's such a like 80s book, and it smells like an old book, so we stand. This is my beloved. In that same vein, I wanted to stay in the children's literature mood for a little while longer, so I'm pretty sure the night I finished that, I just decided to read Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. I still have all my Roald Dahls somewhere in this house, and Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favourite film of all time, so I was really curious to see what the source material was like, because I do not remember it. And I mean, it is the story from the film. It's definitely giving, there's like underage drinking, you know, there's like the glorification of robbery. We love it. Roald Dahl books tend to have that kind of like sinister, or just like, there's something about it where I'm like, oh, we read this as kids? Okay. There was one bit where it was straight up like homoerotic. Like Mr. Fox and Badger like have history, I fear. Badger laid his head on one side and smiled at Mr. Fox. Foxy, he said, I love you. And they just move on, and it never comes up again. And I just thought that was a beautiful piece of the movie that was missing, I think. And also the ending is they just are excited that they never have to see the sun again, is the end of the book, which, good for them. After that, I decided to read Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This was the next book that my friend recommended to me for the 12 Friends challenge. My friend Frankie, who I love with my entire soul, recommended this to me. We literally, all we do is talk about books. We are currently buddy reading a book, and it's very fun. I love Frankie so much, so I trust her taste, and thank God I did, because this book, it's one of those books where you don't even realize how much you love it until like you're about to finish, and you're like could cry at the thought of like finishing it, because it's really quite short. I don't know why it looks quite long on here. It's like 250 pages, like roughly, not even, I don't think. And it is a light fantasy mystery. I'm not going to say too much about what it's about, because I went into not knowing that much, and it was like the best experience. I actually think that the back of the house, the back of the book tells you too much. Like there's something on the back of the book that doesn't actually come into the book until like halfway through, so it's like, why are you telling me that? I will give you like a brief synopsis, because the way the mystery of this book is so like intriguing. So basically, this is about Piranesi, who lives in the house, and the house is synonymous with the world, and the house is a humongous labyrinth filled with thousands of corridors that are lined with hundreds of thousands of statues depicting everything, every human and animal action, and the statues are how Piranesi understands the world. And he is in the house with only one other person called the Other, and that is pretty much the only information that the book gives you at the start, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? What is the house? How is someone here? Why is there only one other person? What? And that is just the best experience. The first like few pages, I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. Like I don't understand anything that's going on. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. I love Piranesi, the character, so much. I love him. I think about him all the time. I hope he's doing well. And just the imagery of this house lined with these huge statues is just like incredible. I cried a few times. Not that it's not even sad. I don't know really why I cried. When I was reading it, I also found this like underlying layer of, I felt like something bad was gonna happen the whole way through this book. And I don't even know if I was just having anxiety in general in life and it just like projected onto this book, or if the book has that like purposeful kind of underlying like feeling of like, I can tell something's not right and like something is going on and I don't know what it is, but it was so effective and like it really pulls you in and you don't even notice it, like it's subtle. But after the intensity of my experience reading Piranesi, I decided to go back to another Roald Dahl and read Esio Trot, because I remember loving this one as a child, and it's kind of unhinged. It's kind of unhinged. It is about Mr. Hoppy, who lives alone. He's very lonely and he lives above Mrs. Silver. And Mrs. Silver has a tortoise, and funnily enough, tortoise is Esio Trot backwards. I should say Esio Trot is tortoise backwards. This didn't come first. Mr. Hoppy basically manipulates Mrs. Silver into marrying him by pretending to know a magical spell that grows her tortoise. And it's kind of disturbing. Like, it's really not a good message for kids. She says that if he can grow her tortoise, she'll be his slave for life. And that is what makes him excited, which is highly disturbing. But we stand. So basically what I've learned from reading these Roald Dahl short stories is that Roald Dahl is a little bit unhinged and like was kind of feeding us borderline inappropriate ideas when we were children. So I honestly really want to read more Roald Dahl. Like I'm curious now. Then the next thing I read was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. If you live in the UK, I feel like you've seen this book everywhere, but I've never really heard anyone actually talk about it. Like no like booktubers or book talkers seems to have read it. So I was like, I don't think this book is like gonna actually be that good. I feel like it's just like one of those ones where like every like middle-aged white woman has read it, and that is the vibe I actually get having read it. It is a murder mystery about a bunch of old people living in a retirement village, which I did not know this was a thing. So I was very confused the whole time. I was like, is this an old people's home? Is this what's going on? But it's like a village. They decide to try and solve a murder because they love true crime. They had a few like ex-detectives in their little group. And when a murder takes place around them, they decide to try and solve it. And definitely not the best murder mystery I've ever read. I think it was like rewarding enough. Like I did read the whole thing and it's not like a short book, so obviously it kept me interested enough, but I just don't think I was the demographic. There was kind of that like haha old people being sexist humor, but it was like trying to be self-aware about it, but it just was like, why? And it did feel very much like British, like people in their 50s are like the demographic, you know? Also, one of my complaints, first of all, like hardly any of the characters were actually likable to me. Like a few of the old people were likable. There was like 2 police characters, right? And I think big mistake when writing a murder mystery, because the whole reason why murder mysteries are interesting and fun is because it's like an unorthodox group of people trying to solve the murder, right? So when you have the police doing like investigations, it's suddenly like it becomes more like clinical, or like I don't know, it just doesn't become as fun, or like no one's reading a book about old people solving a murder to like get the police perspective, which we kept going back to even in their personal lives. It's like, why do I care like who this fucking police guy's dating? Like what? Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the police characters at all. There was a bunch of like weird jokes. There wasn't a bunch, but there was a few weird jokes about them being like, haha, I like, you know, beat up a robber when I was like angry at my ex. And I was like, police brutality jokes, is this the time for those types of jokes? I don't know, but it was fine. Richard, clearly you're making bank off of this, so do what you gotta do. And lastly, I read Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This was another book that just sat with me, is sitting with me. This is about two young black adults living in London, and it is a intimate, like truly intimate and like delicate love story, but also a story of black joy and black art, a celebration of those things, and also an awareness of the pain and the underlying dread that can come with living as a black person. It was like heart-wrenching. Like, it is written so beautifully. Like, I don't think I've ever read a romance book written by a man before, and this isn't like solely a romance book, but it is heavily based in love. And like, I was shocked. I was shocked because a lot of the time when men write female characters or like write about loving female characters, it's a little bit less delicate and a little bit less, the only word I can think of is like intimate. Like, it was so devastating and detailed and so gentle, and like, I was blown away. Like, I was truly blown away. I wanted to start tabbing all the pages that like really stuck with me, and these are the only ones that I like really justified, because every single page I wanted to put one on. Like, every single page I read, I was like, fuck, and I was like, I can't keep doing every single page. And one of these last ones, this is literally just the rest of the book. Like, I just put that there to show that the rest of the book was absolutely unbelievable. I've never read really anything like it. Like, I think I don't have the biggest history in reading, so I'm sure there is something like it, but the prose felt really new and really fresh and unique, and like the chapter structure, like there was kind of these reoccurring threads throughout different chapters and kind of throughout the whole book. It wasn't really written like a narrative story, it was kind of written about, I don't know, it was written about themes, and this person's life was kind of exploring the different themes, and it was also written from a perspective I don't think I've ever read. You are the main character. It doesn't say he went to the shop, it doesn't say I went to the shop, it says you went to the shop. Like, it doesn't say you went to the shop, but you know, you didn't tell her, you didn't blah blah blah, and like, that is so like crazy impactful. Like, I was like, it just added that layer of like, this is an insight. Yeah, it's heart-wrenching. I had a few breakdowns about just like the world that we live in, and like the helplessness and that dread that people have to live with, and how it is like harrowing and horrifying and angering, and it's such a like personal, unique experience. Like, this book really like hones in on the importance of connection between, you know, specifically in this case black people, like the importance of community, and that's why like these spaces full of music and dance and art, and how they can be so important to someone's connection in a world that tries to isolate them constantly. This book is so real. Like, it, as I said, it felt like a memoir. Like, it felt like, and it's a story that is basically the voice of so many people who will have these experiences of both love and violence and anxiety, and the struggles with identity and existing, trying to exist as more than a black body, trying to be seen as more than a black body. Like, that is just harrowing. Like, it's truly, like, still when I think about this I get emotional and I feel so touched, and so like, this book just makes me want to scream at everyone to read it and to think and to understand and go into someone else's shoes and just have basic empathy and just try to always help someone feel seen. And I really could go on about this book for so long, but I'm not going to, because I think you should just read it. Like, just read it. Just read it. Just read it. I'm telling you to read it. It is lyrical and thought-provoking and beautiful and a celebration, but also a reminder. And I just... Here he is at the back of the book. Caleb, I will read anything you write. Like, I will read your grocery shopping list at Tesco. I will read any essay you've ever written. I will read your thoughts in your notes app. And after reading Open Water, I tried to finish Before the Coffee Gets Cold before the end of the month, but I did not. I don't know why. Does anyone else feel like short books end up taking the longest because there's like a subconscious part of your brain that's like, oh, I don't have to like worry about being quick because it's so short, and then you end up taking like a week to read it. But I'm almost done. I'm definitely gonna finish this tonight. God help me, I'm gonna finish this tonight. So I guess you'll have to wait till next month. Oh, that's so stupid, but yes. When it comes to this month, I do not ever really make TBRs because I'm such a mood reader and I would never stick to them anyway. But me and my friend Miriam, my beloved Miriam, we are going to stay at, oh god, you can see the mess again. We are going to stay at my grand's caravan, recluse in the middle of nowhere for a while. So we're both going to take our editions of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, the 700+ page beast, and try to read that there. So I think I'll be reading that this month, and obviously I'll be finishing this. But apart from that, I have nothing to give you. No anticipation. So I hope this was enjoyable. I feel like I'm probably going to finish filming this and immediately remember things I wish I had said about these books, as I always do. So if you want to have a conversation about any of them, I'm sure I have more to say. I have a book talk now. I have a bookstagram that I barely ever use because I don't really like bookstagram. I have storygraph, Goodreads, all that good stuff. And I have loads of ideas of things I want to do for here because I find it so fun. Even if no one watches these, I find it so fun. So if you do watch these, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I will try and create interesting and entertaining content for you. Thank you. I hope you have an amazing day and also read these books.